A $12,000 job can look like a 40% winner on paper and still keep only 4% once every real cost lands on it. I'm Corey. Here's the 5 bucket system that finds that number and the 20-minute weekly habit that stops it from happening again. How do you actually know a ServiceTitan job is losing money while the crew is still on site, not 3 weeks later once the invoice finally posts? Most shops can't answer that in real time, and it's not because nobody's watching. It's because the tool most residential and light commercial ServiceTitan accounts use for job costing was built to lock in a number after the fact, not to watch one while it's still moving. So let's go through exactly what ServiceTitan's own documentation says is real time, what it actually takes to turn on, the gap left even when it is on, and how a shop catches a job drifting over budget while there's still time to do something about it. First question. Does ServiceTitan have anything that tracks cost in real time while a job is still open? Yes, and it's real, not a marketing exaggeration. ServiceTitan's own help documentation for a feature called Budget versus Actual states plainly that the table updates in real time as you work through a project and generate actuals, showing percent of budget used, variance, balance to finish, and a forecasted cost at completion. The catch is scope. That same documentation says budget versus actual only exists inside project management, a separate feature set built for ServiceTitan's commercial and construction side. A shop running ordinary residential or light commercial jobs, which is most of the install base, doesn't see this table anywhere in their account. What they see instead is the standard job costing flyout, built from the invoice, and it locks the moment that invoice posts and exports. So, say a shop wants it. What does it actually take to turn budget versus actual on? More than a settings toggle. ServiceTitan's own documentation for project financials says account configuration is required and tells you to contact technical support for details. And separately, that budget versus actual has to already be enabled before the visual project financials view will even show. Once it's configured, the underlying numbers are straightforward. Contract value is the price and tax of every sold estimate. Actual billed is invoiced income minus retainage, and total budgeted expense is the sum of estimated costs. Here's the part worth slowing down on. What does real time actually mean if the numbers only post once someone bills or gets billed? It means the table refreshes instantly. It does not mean the inputs arrive instantly. ServiceTitan's own documentation says actuals start calculating only when you generate an invoice, receive a bill, or issue a return, and that technician labor is calculated at the hourly rate times paid hours worked, not clocked hours. A tech's time on a job today doesn't become an actual labor cost until payroll actually runs and pays it. That pattern repeats across every real-time claim ServiceTitan documents. The table itself is real. What feeds it is gated behind a module most accounts don't have, a support ticket to turn it on, or paperwork that hasn't cleared yet. None of that is dishonest. It's just not the same thing as watching a job while it's still moving. What about the work in progress report? Is that a live dashboard you can check anytime? No. ServiceTitan's own documentation for the WIP report describes a report you manually run. Go to Reports, click All Reports, click WIP, set a project start date and an as of date, then click Run Report. That's a point-in-time export built around percentage of completion accounting for month-end revenue recognition, not a dashboard sitting open that refreshes as the crew works. Does ServiceTitan at least alert you automatically when a job is trending over budget? Nothing in ServiceTitan's own documentation describes a proactive alert. The project management feature page promises real-time visibility to keep a project on budget, and a project portfolio view billed as flagging which projects require attention. But that's a description of a screen, not an event. No notification, email, or push alert fires when a job crosses a budget threshold. Someone still has to open the table and look on every job, every day. ServiceTitan's own marketing cites numbers on this. Are they backed by a named study? No, and it's worth stating plainly. ServiceTitan's own blog post on real time job costing states contractors using integrated job costing report 25% fewer budget overruns, and that projects with committed cost tracking see 15% fewer overruns. Neither figure traces to a named study, an outside survey, or a dated source anywhere in that post. Treat both as ServiceTitan's own marketing claims about its own product category, not independently verified results. Now, the gap that matters most while a job is still open: committed cost versus actual cost. Committed cost is money already tied up in a purchase order a vendor hasn't billed yet. Actual cost is money already billed. A job can look perfectly on budget mid project purely because real, already incurred expense is sitting as committed instead of actual, and budget versus actual only counts a cost once the bill lands. Watching actual cost alone misses spend that already happened in the field but hasn't been invoiced yet. Why does this matter more on materials heavy or fixed price jobs specifically? Because the two most common ways a job goes over budget both happen mid project, not at closeout. A material substitution or price change burns through the budgeted allowance faster than planned. Or a fixed price job runs longer than estimated and keeps billing labor hours against a contract value that never moves. Both are fixable while the crew still has work left to do. Swap a supplier, write a change order, have the scope conversation. Neither is fixable once the invoice is already posted. Is this a ServiceTitan specific gap, or does the wider industry build around it too? Third party job costing tools exist specifically because this gap is real, and their own marketing proves it. Notify's own site says most contractors find out a job lost money after it's done, and shows where a job stands before it's too late to act. Builder Trends Help documentation describes a real time view of estimated cost, actual spend, and profitability by cost code. DAPT's HVAC job costing page promises real time visibility into labor, equipment, and material cost to prevent overruns. None of the three plug natively into ServiceTitan. Let's make this concrete with one job. This example is illustrative, built to show the mechanism, not a client result. An $18,500 fixed price bathroom remodel, 60% through its schedule, has already used 78% of its material budget after a supply substitution, and 2 change order hours are logged but not yet billed. Nothing forces anyone to compare 60% done against 78% spent. Nothing in the standard flyout, nothing in budget versus actual, nothing in the WIP report surfaces that gap on its own. Whoever finds out whenever the invoice finally posts, weeks later. So, how does a shop actually catch this while the job is still open? The financial and price book agents inside Top Builder AI pull ServiceTitan's committed costs, actual costs, and paid hours labor data continuously, instead of waiting on an invoice or a manually run report. They read committed and actual costs side by side. They compare schedule progress against spend, the exact comparison nothing in ServiceTitan does automatically. They recompute labor at its burdened cost as it's logged, without waiting on payroll to run. And when drift crosses a set tolerance, the job gets flagged for review, while there's still time to swap a supplier, write a change order, or have the scope conversation. Last question. Does any of this replace ServiceTitan's projects module or its budget versus actual table? No. ServiceTitan stays the system of record for the job, the budget, and the invoice. Where project management is turned on and configured, budget versus actual keeps working exactly as it does today. The agents read the same committed and actual cost data ServiceTitan already tracks, whether or not that module is enabled, and surface a projected margin while the job is still open, closer to the always current view ServiceTitan's own marketing describes than what a standard account without project management delivers on its own. No edited records. Your ServiceTitan data stays exactly as your team enters it. No invented numbers. Committed cost, actual cost, and schedule progress come from your real data, never a guess presented as fact. No blind self-serve sign-up. It's configured against your actual ServiceTitan and payroll data, and it works whether or not project management is turned on for your account. So here's the fastest way to check this yourself. Open a job that's still in progress right now and see whether a budget versus actual table even appears. If it doesn't, there's no real-time cost table on that account today, only the standard flyout that locks at invoice. If it does, check how many committed costs on that job haven't moved to actual yet. That gap is exactly what a mid... That's the idea. The back office ServiceTitan never automated, run by AI that learns your shop, and you approve every move. Read the guide, then book a call.